Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. Mrs. Dalloway. By Virginia Woolf. In Mrs. Dalloway, the attention is on the characters' personalities rather than the story's plot. Virginia Woolf devoted much of her work to depicting the emotions and thoughts of the people she created in her stories. This book is often regarded as the author's best work, as well as the best English novel written in the English language since its publication. The story is set in the literary modernism period. Virginia Woolf honed her stream of consciousness writing skills with this book, which follows the thoughts of the main character rather than focusing on a specific issue. There are countless ideas, memories, hopes and dreams that make up this one being. Most of the work is devoted to Mrs. Dalloway's internal monologues, in which she examines the significance and core of her own life. She, like everyone else, wonders if there is a better way to be. Was or will her life be of more significance than it already is? She comes to terms with the fact, though, that she made the best decision she was able to in the end. Despite the monotony and boredom of her life, she realizes that she is content with it. She married a man who could provide for her, regardless of how uninteresting he was, because her safety was and still is more essential than excitement or some higher significance. Clarissa Dalloway is a wealthy parliamentarian's wife who is 52 years old. In 1923, while shopping for flowers in London's Bond Street, the plot began to take shape. Upon Clarissa's arrival home, she was surprised to see a guest waiting for her at the door. Peter Walsh was the one who returned from India. For a long time, he was madly in love with her, but she turned her back on him. In Rene's Park, Peter reflected on his adolescence and the day he was rejected by Clarissa after leaving her house. In addition to Septimus Warren Smith and his Italian wife, Lucrezia, there was a mental patient. Throughout his life, Septimus was haunted by thoughts of death and suicide. Clarissa's party was ready to go when the sun went down. Sir William Bradshaw, a well-known psychologist, was also in attendance. That Septimus had committed suicide, he'd told everyone. Even though Clarissa didn't know Septimus, she was saddened by the news. At the same moment, her husband, Richard Dalloway, stared at their 17-year-old daughter Elizabeth with special admiration in his eyes. There is no definite plot in the novel as a whole. Everyday occurrences like Clarissa purchasing flowers and the celebration aren't really thrilling. The characters' thoughts, recollections, and monologues are frequently discussed by the author. On the way through West End, Virginia combined her views of the surroundings with Clarissa's inner monologue, which manifested itself as thoughts, recollections, and fantasies. We learn everything there is to know about Clarissa throughout the book, including her physical appearance as well as her innermost desires, anxieties, and hopes. She has a great attraction to her spouse, but she's a little apprehensive about his feelings. She just goes with the flow and has a normal, safe existence. We also learn about the affluent West End, which is home to a number of high-profile individuals, thanks to her. Every individual in Virginia Woolf's novel is interconnected, and it was her goal to paint a realistic portrait of the town through its characters. Septimus was Clarissa's antithesis, a dark figure full of gloomy emotions and thoughts. For this story, we are introduced to ideas and sensations that are woven together in London's parks and streets throughout the day and night. When Clarissa learns about Septimus' suicide, she gets an epiphany that changes everything for her. He killed himself by jumping out of a window to avoid going to the hospital, which left a lasting impression on her. In an inner monologue, she tells us that she admires him since he accomplished things that she could not. He was a hero to Clarissa, who felt that her life was incomplete because she couldn't follow in his footsteps. The sight of the serene old lady reminds her of how fleeting life is and how much the simple things matter, and this helps her sunny side triumph over her gloomy side. In the end, she realizes that although if she chose a quiet and safe life with an important and respectable guy, she is important, gorgeous, and the center of attention as a host of her party. When Clarissa was able to overcome her inner demons, she returned to her visitors with a smile on her face. Involved in the story are Clarissa Dalloway and Richard Dalloway as well as Peter Walsh and Septimus Warren Smith. Clarissa Dalloway, she is a high society lady, married to a parliament representative. Is there anything she can't have? Clarissa made it her life's work to be an excellent mother and wife. As a result, she is always in excellent physical shape. She is torn between her feelings for Peter and her head. He had a crush on her, but she turned him down because she was afraid of how she felt. Despite her fiery personality and short fuse, she's chosen a conservative way of life. Despite her best efforts, Clarissa was unable to conceal her feelings for Peter. While her daily routine is tedious and uninspiring, She has a sense of security. At the end of the day, she is happy and content with her life as the wife of a wealthy guy. Septimus Warren Smith, an unhappy young man who finishes his life by jumping out a window to avoid being hospitalized. Clarissa's contrast to him was his suicide, which made her reflect on her own mortality. Adeline novelist and critic Virginia Woolf's stream of consciousness and poetic style are among the most significant contributions to modern fiction. Sir Leslie Stephen, a philosopher, raised Woolf at home from the time she was a baby. After the deaths of Woolf's mother and father, Vanessa, an artist, and her sister established their home a gathering place for their older brother's former university friends. Virginia Woolf married Leonard Woolf in 1912, and the couple was part of the Bloomsbury Group, a gathering of intellectuals in London. The Hogarth Press was founded in 1917 by her and her husband. It's clear from The Voyage Out, 1915, Night and Day, 1919, and Jacob's Room, 1922, that Virginia Woolf was determined to go beyond the confines of narrative storytelling in her early works of fiction. Following novels Mrs. Dalloway, 1925, and To the Lighthouse, 1927, the plot is non-existent. Instead, the use of imagery and metaphor is used to generate psychological effects. Woolf was a well-known critic, biographer, and feminist in addition to all of those other roles. Among the first to advocate for women's rights, she wrote A Room of One's Own in 1929. Woolf struggled with mental illness for much of her life. She may have had what is today known as bipolar disorder. Woolf took her own life in March of 1941, walking into the River Ouse near her home with a pocketful of stones in her hands. Leonard buried her ashes behind a tree in the backyard of their house, where she had died. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.